Mark Zuckerberg wants you to die. Not only this, but he wants to be the one to kill you. It would not be an exaggeration to say that he has made it his life's new mission to accomplish this task. Just stare into his cold, dead eyes. A creeping sensation warns you that perhaps what you are looking into, the soul behind these pupils, is not entirely human. Maybe not even human at all. An unfeeling, scaly green creature holding your fate and identity in his greedy claws. Facebook has become meta, literally. In today's video, I'm going to explain to you why this is a very, very bad thing, and how this is the embodiment of a much larger movement to essentially kill all of us, so we may be reborn in a realm that doesn't support ad blocker. Let's dive into it. Firstly, what exactly is the goal of Meta? Put simply, without getting into the actual motives behind it quite yet, it is to create true virtual reality. You will do your shopping in virtual malls, go to the work in the virtual office, stare at an avatar's lifeless face for basically your entire day. The only grass you'll be feeling under your toes will be some polygons, which, if you're an anime fan, may be more than normal. Science fiction has long since known this is where humanity has been going. I don't think I really even have to explain this all to you, because literally everyone is already quite familiar with what's going on here. Pretty much imagine living in a cheap ripoff of The Matrix. That's basically what Meta is trying to accomplish at this moment. But why would they really want to do this? Well, a better question would be, how does Facebook make so much money? And the answer is simple. Advertisement. The worlds of both social media and entertainment are really just businesses that try to get you to buy stuff, whether that be an actual product or commercialized idea. Something like success is sold in the form of Instagram entrepreneurs, which you can't see the script right now, but let me assure you that I used 3 separate quotations on each side of that word. Basically, the business formula for these entrepreneurs is to get rich by telling you how to get rich, which I don't think I really need to explain the logical fallacy there. This stuff makes money, a lot of money. These are mega multi-billion-dollar industries for a reason, and they're always looking to innovate. The phone you were watching this on was the most previous major step in the innovation. The next is Meta. When you see an ad on your phone, you can scroll by most of the time. Your consciousness is partially transmitted to your phone, more on that later, but you're still, at the end of the day, a separate entity from your phone. You still have most of your senses untouched by its influence. And when you walk around the city without even touching your phone, we all know damn well you aren't paying any attention to those billboard signs. But VR is different. Your consciousness is essentially entirely dependent on the device, including all of your senses and most of your thoughts. There is hardly, if any, separation there. Now imagine you are walking your dog on the sidewalk, minding your own business, and a big shiny ad just popped out of literally nowhere, showing you a brand new dog collar or some kibble. That is what you call dog food, right? Seems pretty tempting and so super relevant to what you're doing right now. And hey, you just got paid, you can afford it just this one time. Now apply this principle to VR. Sure, phone ads can be convincing, but as I said, you have a comfortable distance from them. But what if you had a headset on, or God forbid, an implanted microchip? I can only imagine the primary goal towards this shift to the virtual world, to the metaverse, is to make advertising products easier and more effective. Now, if that's not the most downright depressing thing you've heard all month, then I feel horrible for you. Corporations can buy land, set up stores, and post billboards everywhere, but they can't fully control your environment. Because as much as mankind looks to look at itself naked in the mirror, flex its muscles just a bit, and maybe do a little lip bite, we have not achieved full control over nature. We never really can. But in the VR world, where everything is completely man-made, every little aspect of the environment can be controlled by very powerful people. And they're gonna sell you a shit ton of extended car warranties, and you're gonna like it. But Alex, you're asking to yourself, If everyone spends all their time in VR, then how are they going to sell physical products that nobody will need anymore? And that's a great question. But I ask you this, what costs more money and resources to produce? A full outfit made of cloth or a simulated one made of some polygons? The answer, well, I don't really know the answer. I mean, the net cost of a digital world could be more than what we already have when you count for electricity, computer materials, etc. But I'm willing to bet that the way we do it now costs more just based on required manpower. But don't get it twisted. That simulated shirt isn't gonna cost you any less than the regular one. So now, instead of just physical materials being sold to you, it's digital ones that probably cost less to produce, as well as the commercialization of ideas that has become more and more prominent in the business. And I'd have to assume that you need to exit VR to, eat and stuff. So you'll still need some physical goods, which can be better catered to you in the virtual world. And that's what it really comes down to. Easier, more effective advertisement, better profit margins, and a much greater deal of control. It's basically the epitome of what our capitalist system has been aiming for all this time. But the question remains, how does this result in your death? Let's get into it. Now, what you should certainly do is watch my How I Gave Up My Body video. I'll link it in the description. You could say this is kind of a follow-up to that. But hey, we're both busy people, so I'll give you the extremely short version. Basically, the internet acts as a meetup spot for the collective consciousness, an entity of which we are born into and through interacting with it, form our minds and personalities. It's the essence of human communication, and is basically the pooled experiences of every person who has ever existed. The internet then streamlines this process and allows the human world to truly connect. When you make a tweet or a YouTube video, you are interacting with the collective consciousness. Now, normal interaction with the world requires your body and your senses. You need to feel the earth and see those in front of you, smell, sense, and hear approaching dangers. This is how we've evolved and survived over time. Our consciousness is very bodily in this sense, but something like a tweet or a Facebook post is different. It is your very thoughts being directly uploaded to the internet, and thus a direct interaction with the collective consciousness that really doesn't involve your body. This is what we'll call a partially transplanted consciousness, as your mind becomes the tweet, but you still have some separation from it. And when going on your phone is the first thing you do every morning, when it is the light coming off your screen instead of the sun that you see when you're still half asleep, then you are conditioning your mind to feel as if that device is your real body, not the one you actually live in. Again, go watch my whole 10-minute video on the subject because it is incredibly hard to sum it up here. But I hope I've explained thoroughly enough basically what happens when you use your phone. And this is a bad thing, as we are beings that are meant to experience the world in our own bodies. Evolution says that much at least. When we aren't, we experience a fractured psyche, and that's only with using a phone. Now imagine lacking that separation, diving into a virtual world where it's unclear where the machine ends and your mind begins. That is the world in which Mark wants to create. I theorize that this would result in an almost total fracturing of identity. It's essentially a full transplant of consciousness, and the time spent outside the virtual world will likely not do much to offset this, but instead just make your mind even more confused. Add on to this that the system that your consciousness will now inherently be tied to is one that only wants to sell you as much shit as possible. And, well, the prospects certainly aren't looking great. I would have to imagine that this process would result in a dissociation so strong that your identity would essentially be killed off, thus the title of the video. But there's one more facet of this that I want to talk about: your kids. Now, I personally was raised with technology readily available, but listening to the Lilo & Stitch soundtrack on my portable CD player isn't exactly going to cause me an existential crisis anytime soon. I was born too early for that. But what we are seeing now with our kids is a much different story. For whatever reason, I decided to try and explain the metaverse to an 8-year-old recently in a way that would actually make sense, and I came up with some new theories. Their generation is brought up using devices like cell phones. I mean, you gotta keep the kids from crying somehow, right? And the dramatic effects of this are still relatively unseen, but I imagine they will become catastrophic later on. Yeah, I can use my phone as the first thing I do when I wake up, but I'm also 22. My mind is more or less physically matured as much as it's going to, and even then the effects are almost crippling. But a child does not have anything close to this solidified of an identity. After all, they're still becoming the person they are going to be. And when they spend half their time on a cell phone or a tablet playing games like Roblox or watching YouTube videos, they are raised with both an inherently fractured psyche from the get-go and a mind that is much easier to persuade while in the metaverse. The interactions they are having and growing from are simulated, not derived from the real world. I mean, shit, they basically already got a foot through the meta door, and I only expect this problem to get worse with future generations. We have yet to really see the full extent of this new technological age, but I can say that many of the drawbacks are already catastrophic with much worse to come. This next section will be narrated by my good buddy Jameson as he tries to wrap his brain around the abstracted being that is the Zuck.
Creating. Now Deb from our studios team is joining me. Deb, do you want to take us through some of the exciting games in the pipeline for Quest?
Absolutely. From Deep Silver and others. We'll share more about this lineup very soon.
Nice. What else is coming?
The studio behind fan favorite Arizona Sunshine.
I love Arizona Sunshine. That game basically got me and my friends through the first few months of the pandemic.
That's awesome. Beat Saber has a passionate community.
I love Beat Saber.
So do I. Did you play the Billie Eilish music pack last month?
Yeah, a little more than I should have. I probably should have been working more on this Metaverse presentation.
Well, they have a great lineup. Okay. Have you played Population 1?
I mean, yeah, I love the game so much that...
For those who have...
When I took French in high school, we used to reenact little skits, and I swear to you the conversations we had during that sounded more natural than these reptilians trying to replicate human speech patterns. The only word I remember in French is bonjour. I can't even count to 1 in the language.
Okay.
As I said at the start of this video, Mark Zuckerberg is trying to kill you. To do this, he is helping facilitate a technological environment that will fracture and harm your identity to such a degree that your current mind may as well be dead. Even worse, the damage he is doing to your children is indescribably horrible. But why is he doing all this? Is it really all just to sell you some more shit you don't need? To create an environment where he has complete control? Or perhaps, is there something much more sinister in the works? Something that defies logic, that boggles even the imagination. Next time, we look at how the lizard people are slowly subjugating